Hi, welcome back to Public Administration. We were on Module 3, and this week I'm using a screencast. I wasn't able to make it over to the school to record a video, and so I'm using the Screencast-O-Matic to do this. For this module, we're going to be looking at the rise of the administrative state, and it's kind of funny the title of the chapter has this name. That's the subject we're looking at because politically that's a term that's been used to try to put down public administration in the last few years. But in reality, what happened was as responsibilities changed with government, public administration expanded to have agencies take over administration. And so to highlight this, we're going to look at the expansion of public administration through looking at how a new agency was formed. And so we're going to look at the Environmental Protection Agency to see how and why agencies are created. And so this will be interesting for you. And we're going to actually tie this into a case that will go for a couple of weeks in looking at the overlap between the federal government and state agencies. And so we're going to use the case in Flint, Michigan, and contrast that with New York City and their drinking water, just to see different administrative styles and how access to more or less capital can really affect the well-being of an agency, as well as public support. So this week, I'm just going to work down the list here. So we're going to first jump back to what we were doing last week with the EEOC. And so you're going to start responding to each other's posts from last week. I will take off the first response so you can actually respond to other people besides the one that you initially discussed. So if you find someone more interesting or better discussions going on with somebody else, feel free to jump in over there and do that. So again, log on at least 3 different days and a minimum of 1 response each day. I would prefer to see a lot more than that, but that's the bare minimum that I would expect to see. But these discussions, they're the only way we have to build community in this class. And so hopefully that will happen throughout the semester. One thing I do have to say is this is the first semester I didn't have students go ahead and start jumping in and responding right away. So I'm really glad about that. I was just listening to last semester that I had this class online, and I had to, at this point, remind everybody to not be doing that. So it's great that you follow directions. So you're going to respond to those discussions and looking at the creation of the EEOC and some of the problems that administrators had with that. Then we're going to look at some videos watching what led to the creation of the EPA. And then there's going to be some readings on Flint, the Flint water crisis. This is a snapshot in time that I have. You can go ahead and pull more information. There was just recently a really interesting article that came out about how people who live in Flint are not paying their water bills, and they may have their houses repossessed, taken over by the municipality, but they don't feel they should pay for them since the water is contaminated. So there's really interesting twists in this, and this is a case that's ongoing. So there's a lot of problems going on here that weren't addressed. So I want you to look into that. As we look into it, there's going to be some readings that go into the state and federal level. So there are state agencies and federal agencies that responded, and they have slight overlapping responsibilities. So we're going to look at that too. There's going to be a Chapter 2 quiz and a Dropbox assignment that I'll go over. And of course, I have a checklist again. And if you finish that early, you can go ahead and read Chapter 3 of the text in preparation for next week. And I will change the date here. I thought I had this done already, but apparently I didn't. And so in going back and looking at what we're going to do, I want you to make sure that you move down this list as I have it presented here. There is an order to how things are on this page, so just follow that as you're working your way down. So again, we're going to start off looking at these videos on the creation of the EPA. And there's an additional reading on the EPA, which you'll probably want to read for the Dropbox. And for the Dropbox questions, there's 2 questions. The first 2 questions are going to be 1 to 2 paragraph answers. And you're going to use these and tie them back to your textbook. And then the third question is looking at the connection between the creation of the EPA and the pollution of our nation's waterways. So you're going to tie events together to look at, what mostly led to the creation of the EPA. Then again, we're moving on to Flint, Michigan as we work our way down. And again, this is not a resolved issue. So we're going to look at the earlier days of the crisis as well as some information from a little more recent. But again, you can add more information to this if you feel. I know there's a lot out there. This is something that we should be talking about more. And let's see here. Again, the Dropbox, make sure you answer the 2 questions from the book, and the last question will deal with information from this module. And you will look at the overlap between the federal and the state agencies and the limits to their power and bureaucracy. And this is kind of interesting to look at because it leaves us with the question of who to blame for these issues. Usually when we look at something like the Flint water crisis, we look at it with the standpoint of looking at it through a socioeconomic lens or through a political lens. For this class, we're going to try to look at it through administrative lens. So we're going to look at how administrators should deal with this kind of problem. And as you can tell from the first reading, when I had you read Wilson, the whole point of that reading really, as far as I see, is to basically point out that public administration doesn't find the answer, but it tries to discuss possible solutions to problems that exist. And the interesting thing about administrative problems is as soon as you work on one or you ameliorate one problem, a new one pops up. So you're always going to be busy. There's always new issues to jump on. Wilson is a very well-respected public administration scholar, and he passed away a few years ago. But he's somebody, if you take more public administration classes, you will be reading. And so he writes about the problems of bureaucracy because that's what this whole class is about. It's about taking problems and trying to ameliorate or reduce them. Usually you don't get rid of a problem. And once you do, you reevaluate because you probably have new problems coming forward. And so this allows for you to be creative and look around and try to find solutions. And it's something we need a lot more of. This is a very interdisciplinary study, so it's not fair to call this class a political science class or a sociology class. It gets into history and psychology and policy and everything in between. Next week we're going to look at engineering a little bit, and so this class really skirts along a lot of different things. So it really is a border science. It's hitting on everything that we do. And there's a lot of room for everybody in this field, from social scientists to computer programmers. There's room for you here. So I hope you're finding this exciting. I try to use cases the whole class to teach and reinforce. So as you can see, we're gonna have these work on each other, and hopefully as we move through the semester, you can draw from prior cases to get information moving forward. Again, we have a quiz, and I will have a checklist up. I have to change the dates on that as well, but that will be ready to go. If you have any questions, go ahead and email me. I don't have a regular video that I put up this week, and I was going to discuss an issue of how sexism plays into public administration. I will probably address that with a video either later this week or that will be attached to next week's information. But I didn't get that recorded this week, so I do apologize. If you have any questions, make sure you send me an email on the regular school email. Again, we don't have D2L email anymore. And if you send me an email in the school email, make public administration be the subject line, and that way I can get to this right away. Well, thank you so much, and I do look forward to reading more of your posts and answering any questions you may have. Thank you.